Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the iron motherfucking life. Now, before I get into today's show, guys, I just want to say thank you for all of the shout-outs I've been getting, all the DMs, all the messages, the comments, the 5-star reviews. The show is growing, and that is because of you. I appreciate you guys more than you know for listening and tuning in every week and sharing the show or leaving a review. And if you haven't done that yet, if I could just ask you for a quick second of your time right now, just pause what you're doing for just a second and either tap the 5-star button on iTunes, share this episode or past episodes with somebody who might get something out of this show, or just share it onto your stories on Instagram or something like that. It is the best way for us to grow. And if you have an extra second, if you could leave a written review on iTunes, that would really, really help out and mean so much to me. I read every single review and just want to say thank you in advance for all of that. But what I want to talk to you guys about today, because this is a big question that's been coming up a lot lately. You know, a lot of the posts that I put up about, you know, kind of dealing with anxiety and dealing with stress and just dealing with stuff that goes on in day-to-day life. I got a lot of questions from you guys about how to not feel so anxious anymore or not feel so depressed anymore. And I got to tell you guys, first off, if you know my story, you know that, you know, there was a portion of my life where I was really stuck trying to deal with drug addiction in my family and, you know, all the toxic bullshit that comes along with that, the fighting, the arguing, the stealing, all the drama that goes into, you know, having an addict in your family. And that left me incredibly anxious, worried, overwhelmed, so much so that I lost who I was, and I was going to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, waking up in the middle of the day, 3, 4 in the afternoon, no drive, no purpose. I was getting fat. I was broke. I was drinking. There was no way to live. And, you know, unfortunately, I know a lot of you listening may be dealing with something similar. Maybe something is happening in your life right now. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe you're going through something. And whatever it is causing you to feel anxious. Now, I could relate to that in many ways. You know, not only was I dealing with that in the early days when my brother was going through his addiction, but then when my dad passed away back in 2020, just prior to him passing away, he had both legs amputated above the knee. 15 months later, my brother dies of a drug overdose. I certainly know what it's like to deal with loss, but I also know what it's like to deal with the anxiety around hardships and hard times. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not giving you medical advice, but I will share with you some things that have helped me manage and cope my stress and my anxiety and help me deal with some of those things and come out the other side and, you know, just feel better. Because I'll tell you what, this is not, to go through something like that, it's not something like you just like, oh, this will pass. Like, no, you got to work on this shit. If you really want to put an end to your anxiety, you have to put in the work to do that. You have to deliberately and intentionally put in the effort that will help you mitigate or help your anxiety subside. So I have my 3-step formula when I really sat down and thought about, hey, what do I do? Because I was getting asked this question so frequently, I really try to think about it. Like, what were the steps that I took to help mitigate this anxiety? And it comes down to these 3 steps or these 3 buckets. And I'm going to share those with you in just a minute. But what I would suggest that you do when you're listening to this episode is grab a notebook. You know, I want you to write these things down. If you're driving, obviously don't do that. Wait until later and come back and listen to this episode. But I want you to really sit down, have a notebook out so you could write these things out, because once you put these things onto paper, now it becomes more of a reality versus just this thing that you might do sometime. It's like, no, let's fucking do it right now. Because if you're really dealing with anxiety and stress and overwhelm, then man, you got to attack this shit right fucking now. You can't wait. You've waited long enough. So you got to start to work on this stuff today. And by doing that, by tomorrow, you're going to feel just a little bit better, maybe 1%. And then that will compound day after day. So what I beg you to do is to get moving on this shit right now as we are listening, as you're listening to the show, as I'm talking to you right now in your eardrums. Take a second, grab your notebook, and let's jump into this stuff, okay? So my 3-step formula to help you end anxiety is what I call the HSP method, okay? So HSP stands for health, sanity, and planning. Okay, so HSP, remember that. So in bucket number 1, you have health, right? So let's dive into health for a second. And what can I do in this health category or this health bucket to help reduce anxiety? Well, number 1 on the list is to train, to exercise, to move, right? And I would highly suggest resistance training more than anything else. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be walking or doing cardio or any of those things. Of course you should. But resistance training, strength training is going to be a big part of reducing your anxiety and getting those demons out, so to speak. I've told you in the past, like, training was not just about the physical aspects for me. It still is not. That's part of it, yeah. However, it's the mental aspect of it as well. And it's been my therapy. It's been my drug. It's been my anchor in so many ways. So resistance training is a big part of it in this initial bucket that is health, okay? But also incorporate these other things like zone 2 cardio or sprinting, martial arts, some type of activity, even daily walking, in that training category, all right? Now, the second thing in this health bucket is going to be your sleep, all right? Now, you might be thinking, but Chris, I'm so anxious that I can't sleep. Well, let's talk about how to do that, all right? There's a few things that you can do to help promote better sleep hygiene, all right? So let's look at a few things. So number 1, within 2 hours, at the very least an hour, okay? But within 2 hours before you go to bed, you're done eating, right? Get all of your food in prior to that 2-hour window before you go to sleep, okay? I want you to, at that point, turn off all electronics, okay? So you cut off eating 2 hours before, and you also cut off electronics in that 2-hour window, at the very least an hour before bed, all right? So no more electronics, no more text messages, emails, no more work, no scrolling through social media, no binge watching Netflix. Get the friggin' electronics shut down and start getting your mind into a better flow or a better state to go to sleep. Now, once you do that, you could read, you could journal, you could meditate, you could do any of those things. You could take a nice warm shower, try to relax a little bit. Maybe you do all of those things. Maybe that's too much. Maybe you pick one, whatever. But once you shut off the electronics, you got to figure out what it is that's going to look like in your evening routine. Now, one of the big aspects, okay, that I'm going to tell you to do there, right, no matter what, if you do those other things or not, one of the best things that you can do to sleep a little bit better at night is to brain dump. I've been talking to you guys about this for years. One of the things that wakes us up and why we feel anxious is because we're thinking about all the shit that we need to get done, and we're worried because we don't want to forget it. So it's on our mind. We're thinking about, hey, I got to take so-and-so to practice tomorrow. I got to do this for work. I got to do this for my health, and blah, 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 blah. And all these crazy thoughts are running through your mind. So before bed, you take some time and get a blank sheet of paper and just dump all of your thoughts onto that sheet of paper. Get them out of your head. Now, once they're out of your head and you spend 10, 15, 20 minutes, whenever the pen stops and you feel like you got everything out, then what I like to do is categorize them. And I like to do 3 categories. Do now, okay, which is immediate. Then do within 30 days. And then do within 60 plus days, because some of the things you don't need to take immediate action on, but you know you got to do it and you're just thinking about it. So it's the do now, do within 30 days, and do within 60 days plus, okay? So some of the things from your brain dump, you're just going to scratch right off the list. You're talking, but you might have wrote down that fucking Johnny beat you up in the 3rd grade and you're embarrassed about it. Who cares? Scratch that off the list. Nothing you can do about it. Thanks to Johnny for making you a better person. So the other things you're going to categorize in one of those 3 categories, and now you have an execution list. That's a list that you could work off of potentially for the next 60 plus days, because everything is listed out there. So you're going to do that brain dump. Listen, you could do it every day in the beginning. You could do it weekly. You could do it monthly. Maybe you do it every other month or quarterly, whatever works better for you. But in the beginning, I would suggest just doing that every day just to get in the practice or the habit of doing it, okay? Then when you finally get to sleep, there's no electronics or light in your room. You're going to have blackout curtains. You're going to make the room cold and as dark as possible. I recommend around 66 or 67 degrees. Some people may like it colder. That's up to you. But don't sleep in a hot room, because you're not going to get good quality sleep that way, okay? So make sure you adjust the temperature. Now, when you wake up, maybe if you could have no alarm, that's one of the best ways to wake up naturally. And we evolved waking up to light. So if you have blackout curtains in your room, obviously you're not going to wake up to the sunlight. But what you can do is get a sunrise alarm. Now, that has been a game changer for me. So oddly enough, I stopped using it when I moved out of my old apartment, because for whatever reason, I can't figure out how to connect it to our Bluetooth, the Wi-Fi in the house. Anyway, it's another story, but it was really great and helped me for a long time. And that's something I would recommend. So check out sunrise alarms, and this way you could wake up to natural light. Now, part of your sleep hygiene is getting exposed to sunlight first thing in the morning so you could get your circadian rhythm up to par. So as soon as you get up, hydrate and get outside. I don't care if it's for 5 fucking minutes, dude. Just get outside first thing in the morning. Look at the sun or towards the sun. You know, you do the sun gazing. You're not going to look directly at it, but do a little sun gazing. Take your shirt off. Get your body to absorb the sun. As you know, over here in Jersey, the cold months are coming. You can't do that in the dead of winter, but you do the best you can to get outside and still kind of do the sun gazing, etc. For those of you that live in warm places all year round, then you got to step ahead of everyone. But get outside, start doing this practice now, first thing in the morning. And all of these things are going to promote better sleep. If you are training and you're getting better sleep, guess what? You're going to have a little bit less anxiety. But there's still one more thing to focus on in this health box, and that is your nutrition. We all know that there's a direct correlation between the gut and the brain, and we know that when you have gut issues, that's going to lead to the suppression of certain hormones like I'm drawing a blank, serotonin, dopamine, things like that, right? So we have to get your nutrition in check. And also, guys, look, if you're really restricting calories, that could lead to increased anxiety and increased cortisol levels, right? So if you're a chronic dieter eating super low calories all the time, you don't eat any carbs, we're going to have to get some good carbohydrates, okay? When I say good carbohydrates, I'm talking about unprocessed carbohydrates into your diet, more fruits, more vegetables, sweet potato, rice, things like that. Get that stuff into your diet and make sure we get your nutrition dialed in and we're eating enough nutrient-dense foods so you're consuming better quality nutrients we're also working on your gut health by including foods like sauerkraut, like kimchi, like Greek yogurt. So this way you're getting some good probiotics into your diet as well. But you've heard me talk about this for a long time now, so I won't go too deep into it, but making sure you're getting enough protein, enough carbs, enough fat, enough vegetables, fiber, fruits. These things need to be staples in your diet, all right? When you do that, now your training, your sleep, and your nutrition is all dialed in, okay? Beautiful. That's the first box of the HSP 3-step formula to putting an end to your anxiety, okay? Now, let's get into the next category, which is the S, the sanity part, okay? So there's a few different things that I have listed out here. So in the sanity category, I have sunlight, okay? So we talked about that already, just getting that first thing in the morning. But even throughout the day, getting more sunlight, spending more time outside away from screens is going to help control your anxiety levels, all right? There's so many studies on this, just going for a walk, spending time outside, whether it's you're going for a walk on your own, you go for a jog, you go for a bike ride, you go walk your dog, you go play with the dog at the dog park, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, just break up your day, but get more sunlight. Get outside as often as possible. Spend more time outside, and you will lower your levels of stress and anxiety. I promise you it will help. I don't know to what degree, but I promise it will help. So, or I shouldn't say that. At least it has helped me, okay? But give it a try. Spend more time outside. Put it on your calendar so you know when you're going to go for a walk, when you're going to go out there and break up your day, okay? Now, the other thing here is to stop screen sucking and binge watching, okay? When you are screen sucking all day, whether it be on your laptop or your phone or your fucking TV, if you're reading emails all day, text messages, and you're glued to your phone, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you have those notifications on your phone, you're going to be so distracted all day long, man. Every text that goes off, every time an email comes through, every time somebody puts up a post about fucking what their dog had for breakfast on Facebook, it's going to be pinging you, and you are going to be like this, grabbing your phone and seeing what's going on, and it's taking you away from intentional work. It's taking you away from your purpose. It's taking you away from your fucking life. It's taking you away from being present. And if you're sitting down at night and you're just binge watching episode after episode on Netflix or on YouTube or whatever the fuck you watch, dude, you are wasting your life away and all the things that you need to get done to move forward in your life, whether it be to have a better relationship or to make more money or to get healthier or to get stronger, to get more fit, to lose fat, whatever it is in life, and the areas that you want to move the needle in, sitting down and watching hours of Netflix or whatever is not going to help you by any means. It's going to lead to you feeling like shit. Then you're bummed out because you didn't get anything done. You say that you don't have time for these things, which is total horse shit. And instead, you're spending hours watching some meaningless show. Now, listen, do I watch a little bit of TV? I'm not sitting up here from my fucking pedestal and talking down to you guys. Look, I've been there myself. I've caught myself doing the same shit. That's why I'm talking to you guys about it. However, I do keep a pretty tight control over how much TV I watch. I usually watch TV for 45 minutes to an hour at night, for if that, okay? Recently, I've been working on a little project at night, so I haven't been spending much time at all watching TV. But if I do, 45 minutes, an hour, and you got to really be honest with yourself about that and evaluate. I put up a post the other day that in the time it took you, it was a Sunday, it was opening weekend for the NFL, and I said that in the time it took you to watch one football game today, you could have trained 3 times spread out across the week, okay? 3 times. And people say they don't have time, and guess what? They're not just watching one game. You probably didn't watch one game. You probably watched the pregame show, and you probably watched 2 games at least, and maybe the Sunday night game as well, and the post game. And dude, you're spending hours all fucking day watching football instead of moving forward. Now listen, I love sports. I love the UFC. I love the Giants. I love watching sports. I'm with you. I get it. However, I used to spend all fucking day watching football. I've been there. All pregame, all games throughout the day, postgame, and during postgame, I would fucking go to Taco Bell and I would just sit my fat ass on the couch and I would watch all the highlights, eating Taco Bell, and I'll go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. Dude, when I tell you that's when I was at my lowest in my life and I was at my most anxious, but I did it anyway because that's what made me feel good. It was a distraction. And I'm not saying that's what it is for you, but I'm asking you to ask yourself that question. Are you just numbing yourself by these distractions? Are you just taking yourself away from the job that you hate or the toxic relationship or the fact that you haven't been doing the shit you said that you would do by distracting yourself and over-consuming all of these things? Okay? But in the sanity bucket, if you get more sunlight, think of the 2 S's there, okay? Get more sunlight and stop scrolling and binge watching. I guarantee you're going to feel a little bit better. So just hear me out and give it a try, okay? So we got the H and we got the S. Finally, the last bucket is the P, and that is planning. All right, now there's 3 categories I have in the planning column here, okay? And so one is just your preparation, okay? Kind of goes hand in hand with planning. So your preparation to your day, to your life, right? And basically what this means here is, you know, you have a morning routine, you have intentional work times, you time block your day, and you have an evening routine that we talked about already. So you have your morning routine, and your day should be really methodically scheduled. And once you have your schedule down, you don't let anybody fuck with that schedule, right? If it's your kids or it's your family, of course, it's one thing. God forbid there's an emergency. However, if you have your schedule locked in and you have blocks of focused, intentional work, and you have a morning routine and you have an evening routine, and guess what? You're going to get a lot more done. You're going to get a lot closer to your goals. And everything that we talked about, you know, your training, your sleep, like everything is factored in here. And you don't deviate from that fucking schedule. That's how you prepare to win. You know the old adage, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? There's a reason that that's an old adage, because it's fucking true. You have to prepare. You have to be methodical. And if you do that, you're going to get 100 times more done. I promise you. Maybe not 100 times, maybe 99 times, whatever. But you're going to get a lot more done if you prepare and you schedule your day and you time block. All right? Now, another thing I have on here in this category is reflection. I think that it's super important to reflect on where you've been, but I also think it's important to reflect on where you are and where you want to go. So that's the goal setting and kind of looking at the future, looking towards something that excites you. What do you want to build? What do you want to create? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Right? But spending that time to actually reflect on these things and not just get carried through life without any consideration of goal setting or even just looking back at, where you've been and what you're currently doing, looking and evaluating your progress. Man, that's something that all high achievers do. And if you don't do that, what happens is you get sucked in through the day-to-day of life without any purpose, without a mission. And of course, that's going to increase your levels of anxiety because now you're just living for somebody else. Maybe you're working for somebody else and you hate your job, or you're in this relationship and you know you want to get out of it, but you feel like you keep talking yourself into staying. Whatever it is, man. But you got to spend some time reflecting, all right? If you do that, and if you have this as, again, part of your schedule, right, where you're doing intentional reflection periods, whether it be for, a 30-minute window or an hour window or however much time you want to dedicate, I would bet you're going to really move the needle forward in your life, okay? And finally, the last piece of planning is connection. You need to plan on who it is you are going to connect with and how you're going to connect with them. So that could be your spouse. It could be your kids. It could be other industry leaders or people that you want to network with for your career, right? But you need to plan out what that looks like. Are you going to hit them up on social media? Are you going to schedule coffee? Are you going to schedule date night? Are you going to schedule nights out with your kids? But that connection piece and building your bonds and building your relationships and building your tribe is one of the most important things, man. All the blue zones will say that, when they look at the reasons why people live so long in these blue zones, like, yeah, it's their diet and it's their activity and whatnot. But it's also a big piece of that is the community, right? And having these relationships and having that tribe. It's one of the most important things. And, if you don't have that stuff on your schedule, if you're not planning for that connection, then what happens is it's easily forgotten about and you never do it. Now, guys, look, you might be busy as all hell, and I get that. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can't have lunch with somebody every week, but could you do it once a month? Could you do it every 6 weeks? Can you take your fucking wife on a date once a week? If you can't do it once a week, every other week or once a month, but have a planned date night. Don't you think your relationship's going to get a little bit better? And during that date night, nobody has a cell phone. You guys actually talk to one another. I don't know if I'm crazy, maybe, but I would bet that your relationship's going to get a little bit better that way. And that would reduce your level of anxiety. Now, it's a lot of moving parts, right? I don't expect you to get this all down by tomorrow. But again, it's a practice. And if you have intentional or deliberate practice with these things, I promise that your life could open up to new heights and to a new world, man. You don't have to be anxious or stressed anymore. Will stress rear its ugly head from time to time, or anxiety? Of course it will, man. We're human beings. There's going to be problems that you face. There's going to be stressors in your life. That's normal. But it doesn't have to be this world of anxiety and overwhelm, and your heart's pounding and you can't sleep and you're stressed out of your mind and you're worried about this happening or that happening. When you start to take care of yourself first, it gets so much easier to handle all this other bullshit that life will throw at you from time to time. So we got HSP. You got your health, you got your sanity, and you got your planning. And in the health bucket, just to recap, you have your training, your sleep, and your nutrition. In the sanity bucket, you have sunlight and you have stop scrolling and binge watching. And in the planning category, you have preparation, reflection, and connection. That is my 3-step formula to putting an end to your anxiety. And I promise, guys, again, I'm not the guy to talk to. If you need a psychiatrist or you need a therapist, don't call me. I'm a fucking meathead. However, I've done a lot of work on myself. I've helped a lot of clients work on themselves over the years. And these are things that have these are the things that changed my life and truly helped these other people as well that actually took the time to apply this. So all I'll ask you to do is, hey, if you're here listening to the show and you're dealing with a little bit of anxiety, maybe you give this a shot and maybe it will change your life like it did for all of us. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to today's show. Thank you for the reviews. Again, thank you for sharing the show. And if you did not do that yet, if you could take a quick second and just give a quick share, it would mean the world. And I really hope that this episode helps you in some way on your path. I love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace.